So we're going to go back in history just a little bit and talk about some of the things that changed in history that also changed the Tennessee Theater. So in the 1950s, a couple of things happened. That is when people actually got television in their homes. So before that, most people didn't have a TV in their home. So if they wanted to see the news, if they wanted to see a movie, they would come to places like the Tennessee Theater. But people started getting TV in their home, so they were able to watch television at home. People also started getting personal vehicles or cars. So in the time when the theater was built, a lot of people didn't even have a car. So they had to ride buses and trolleys and other forms of what we call public transportation in order to come to the theater, or even just to move around the city of Knoxville. But in the 50s, that's when a lot of people started getting cars. So that started to change because people didn't have to come to the movies as much, so the Tennessee Theater started seeing some smaller audiences. And then in the 1980s, there were a couple things that happened that year, or in that decade, that were really important. So the Knoxville Symphony Orchestra became a resident company of the Tennessee Theater. And if you guys aren't familiar, which I think most of you probably will be, but an orchestra is a big group of musicians that play instruments like oboes and saxophones and flutes and cellos and drums. But they started playing their concerts here. The Knoxville Opera, which is like a musical, but it is all sung, they started performing here as well. So they became resident companies. So remember, the theater is 92 years old, which means it's pretty old. So in the early 2000s, the people who ran the theater knew that the theater needed to be remodeled and it needed to have a facelift. It was a little tired, it was a little worn, and we wanted to do more types of entertainment. Because it was built as a movie palace, the stage wasn't very big, but we knew we wanted to do concerts and Broadway and things that needed a bigger stage. So they actually did a huge project that we call a renovation and a restoration. And they made the theater, they took it back to its original splendor. So they made it beautiful again, and we built a brand new stage house. And here is the most interesting thing about that. It cost almost $30 million to restore the Tennessee. So it was very expensive, but that is why we have this beautiful building that is such a wonderful treasure in our community. And it's because of that restoration that we did.